The woman I had trusted for 8 years had been secretly copying all of my financial records. Then one day, she disappeared with $1 million. But what she never expected was I had known everything for months. For 8 years, I believed Vanessa was the one person in the world who would never betray me. We lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood outside Seattle. Our life seemed simple and happy. Movie nights on the couch, weekend getaways, and plans for a future that I thought we were building together with complete honesty. But then the small things started to add up. Strange questions about my finances. Moments when I caught her slipping into my home office when she thought I wasn't paying attention. Phone calls she would abruptly end the moment I walked into the room. At first, I ignored the signs. That was her biggest mistake. Anil Carter was 42 years old and lived just outside Seattle, Washington. He was a partner at a private investment consulting firm, the kind of man who preferred results over attention. He didn't have social media accounts. He never posted photos of expensive dinners or luxury vacations. While many people chased status, Daniel valued privacy, discipline, and stability. His wife, Vanessa Carter, was different. She loved upscale restaurants, designer brands, and glamorous weekend parties. She enjoyed being surrounded by successful people and often talked about the lifestyle she saw online. Daniel didn't mind. He believed opposites could balance each other. At least, that's what he used to believe. Over the past few months, something had begun to feel off. Every time Daniel left his home office, he would return to find small things slightly out of place. A folder moved a few inches, a desk drawer not fully closed, financial reports stacked differently than he remembered. At first, he brushed it off. Long work days could make anyone second-guess themselves, but the feeling never went away. Then one evening, after a late client meeting downtown, Daniel reviewed footage from the security camera installed in his office. What he saw made his stomach drop. Vanessa quietly entered the room carrying her phone. She walked straight to his desk, opened confidential folders, and began photographing page after page. Not just a few documents, hundreds of pages. For nearly 2 hours, she carefully copied financial statements, investment reports, and client files. Daniel watched the footage in complete silence. His heart wanted answers. His mind wanted proof. So instead of confronting her, he closed the laptop, poured himself a glass of bourbon, and decided to do something far more dangerous. He would keep watching. For the following weeks, the distance between Daniel and Vanessa grew impossible to ignore. No matter how busy they had been in the past, they always made time to have dinner together at least a few nights a week. But now, Vanessa always seemed to have an excuse. A new yoga class, a girls' night out, a personal development course that somehow ran late into the evening. At first, Daniel didn't question it. He had always believed that in a healthy marriage, trust mattered more than keeping tabs on each other. But eventually, the small details began forming a troubling pattern. One afternoon, while checking the GPS data from the family SUV after a minor technical issue, Daniel stumbled across something unexpected. Vanessa hadn't been going to the yoga studio she always mentioned. For weeks, the vehicle had been making regular trips to an upscale apartment complex on the north side of Seattle, a place completely unrelated to any friends or family they knew. Daniel's instincts told him this was no longer about harmless little lies. For the first time in his life, he hired a private investigator. 3 weeks later, a report landed on his desk. Attached were dozens of photographs. In every single one, Vanessa was with the same man, holding hands, embracing, even leaving the apartment together early in the morning. The man's name was Ryan Cole. On social media, Ryan portrayed himself as a successful entrepreneur. He regularly posted videos about investing, financial freedom, and luxury lifestyles, often posing with exotic cars and hosting flashy wealth-building seminars. But the investigation revealed a very different reality. Most of what Ryan projected was nothing more than a carefully crafted illusion. What hurt Daniel the most wasn't the affair itself. It was the recorded conversations the investigator had obtained. Ryan had been feeding Vanessa toxic ideas for months. Daniel is hiding money from you. He has secret accounts. You're his wife. You deserve half of everything he owns. Little by little, Vanessa began trusting Ryan more than the man she had spent 8 years building a life with. Meanwhile, Daniel uncovered something even more disturbing. Through his company's security system, he discovered that Vanessa had copied nearly all of the sensitive financial data stored on his work computer. Not just investment reports, not just asset information, but confidential client files as well. That was the moment Daniel realized this was no longer simply an affair. It was becoming a conspiracy that had the potential to destroy everything he had spent more than 20 years building. What Vanessa didn't know was that it had all started 3 months earlier. As a senior partner at a private investment consulting firm in Seattle, Daniel was used to assessing risk. In the world of finance, greed is always present, and successful people often become targets. Late one evening, while reviewing the company's internal security systems, Daniel noticed several unusual activities. Certain financial files had been accessed at odd hours. There was no concrete proof, but his professional instincts told him that someone was trying to gain access to sensitive information. Instead of sounding the alarm or confronting anyone directly, Daniel decided to do what he did best. He made a plan. Over the following weeks, Daniel quietly built an entirely new set of records. Investment contracts were carefully crafted down to the smallest detail. Profit reports displayed astonishing growth figures. Offshore bank accounts were created on paper, complete with convincing transaction histories. He even fabricated luxury real estate holdings in Miami, New York, and throughout the Caribbean. Everything looked perfect. So perfect that even an experienced financial professional would have struggled to spot the deception. Daniel didn't hide those documents particularly well. In fact, he intentionally placed them where a curious person would eventually find them, on his personal computer, inside his office desk drawer, buried in folders that appeared to contain highly confidential information. It wasn't carelessness, it was bait. Daniel understood that if someone was watching him, they wouldn't be able to resist the temptation of enormous account balances and secret assets. And just as he expected, the trap worked. One fake document after another was copied. One report after another was photographed with a cell phone. One piece of confidential information after another was quietly taken, and Daniel made no effort to stop it. He simply watched. Every time the security cameras captured another document being accessed, Daniel became more certain that his plan was unfolding exactly as intended. The person stealing the data believed they were getting closer to a hidden fortune. But the truth was that they were merely following a path Daniel had carefully laid out for them. And Vanessa, the woman he had trusted more than anyone else in the world, walked straight into that trap without suspecting a thing. In a cold Monday morning in Seattle, Daniel drove home after a meeting that had stretched on since dawn. The moment he stepped through the front door, he sensed something unusual. The house was silent. The familiar scent of Vanessa's perfume was gone. The music that usually drifted from her dressing room had disappeared. The large house suddenly felt strangely empty. Daniel slowly made his way upstairs. The bedroom door was slightly ajar. When he looked into the walk-in closet, he saw empty hangers swaying gently in the open space. Every piece of Vanessa's clothing was gone. Her suitcases were gone. So were all of her personal belongings. Downstairs, on the kitchen island, something small reflected the morning sunlight. Her wedding ring. Beside it sat a neatly folded letter. Daniel picked it up and read it. "I've found someone who truly understands my worth. Goodbye." Just 2 short lines. 8 years of marriage, reduced to a few cold words. A few hours later, his phone wouldn't stop ringing. Friends called to check on him. Family members expressed their concern. One financial advisor he knew urgently informed him that $1 million had just been transferred out of an investment fund that Vanessa believed was one of her husband's secret accounts. The news spread quickly. To everyone else, it looked like Daniel had just lost everything. His wife, his money, his reputation, his future. Yet strangely, he showed no signs of panic. He didn't call the police, he didn't lose his temper, he didn't even try to contact Vanessa. Instead, Daniel quietly sat down in front of the computer in his home office. He logged into the system, studied the numbers displayed on the screen, then a faint smile appeared on his face. Because the $1 million Vanessa believed she had stolen had never existed in the first place. 3 weeks after leaving her husband, Vanessa returned to Seattle. The luxury SUV she had rented pulled up in front of the house she once called home. During those 3 weeks, her social media accounts had been flooded with glamorous photos: yachts off the coast of Monaco, five-star hotels in Dubai, sunsets overlooking the white cliffs of Santorini. Thousands of likes and comments convinced Vanessa that she had made the right decision. She believed she had escaped a boring marriage and stepped into the life she had always dreamed of. With a sense of satisfaction, Vanessa opened the front door and walked inside. But the moment she stepped into the living room, the smile disappeared from her face. 3 people were waiting for her: a lawyer dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit, a federal investigator with a cold, unreadable expression, and Daniel, calm, composed, as if he had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. For several seconds, no one said a word. The silence made the room feel suffocating. Then the lawyer slid a thick file across the table. Inside were hundreds of pages of evidence: security camera footage, data access logs, emails, text messages, transaction records. Every piece of evidence had been carefully organized in perfect chronological order. Vanessa began turning the pages. With each page, the color slowly drained from her face. But the biggest shock was still to come. The federal investigator calmly informed her that Ryan Cole was not a millionaire, despite everything he had claimed. In reality, he was the target of a federal investigation involving investment fraud schemes operating across multiple states. And while Vanessa believed she was helping the man she loved build a future together, she had unknowingly become a tool that helped him gain access to the very information he had been seeking. She had never been Ryan's partner. From the very beginning, she had simply been his next victim. During the entire time Vanessa left with Ryan, Daniel was far from sitting idle, as many might have assumed. From the moment he detected the first warning signs, he proactively cooperated with federal law enforcement agencies. Every suspicious financial transaction was closely monitored. Every phone call, meeting, and movement Ryan made was kept under surveillance. Daniel understood that when dealing with a professional con artist, emotions are the most dangerous thing you can rely on. The only thing that truly matters is evidence. And the evidence kept building, day after day. 3 weeks later, while Ryan was enjoying a lavish lifestyle funded by the money he had stolen from his victims, the net around him was quietly tightening. He was arrested at the Miami harbor while preparing to board a luxury yacht intended to take him out of the United States. All his escape plans collapsed within minutes. Faced with multiple federal charges and the real possibility of spending decades in prison, Ryan quickly changed his attitude. In exchange for a reduced sentence, he chose to cooperate fully and reveal everything he knew: every email, every message, every secret conversation. Even the audio recordings of Vanessa repeatedly discussing ways to approach and take money from her husband. When the investigation files were officially revealed, Vanessa's life began to fall apart at an overwhelming speed. Within just 1 week, the company she worked for terminated her contract. Business partners immediately cut all ties. Friends who once appeared beside her at luxurious parties quietly disappeared. But the most painful realization was not the loss of her career or reputation. It was the fact that the very man she had risked her entire marriage for was the first one to betray her in order to save himself. 6 months after everything fell apart, Daniel decided to sell his old house in Seattle. What was once filled with memories had become nothing more than an empty space of a past he no longer wanted to hold on to. He moved to Charleston, South Carolina, a quiet coastal town where life moved slowly and the sunlight always felt soft. No more late-night meetings that stretched past midnight. No more arguments that dragged on in silence. No more lies hidden beneath the surface of trust. Daniel's life became simpler: work, quiet walks along the shore, and afternoons spent alone with a cup of coffee. One autumn afternoon, as a gentle ocean breeze drifted through the window, he opened his laptop and saw a new email. Sender, Vanessa. There was only one line in the message: "Was everything I lost worth it?" Daniel stared at the screen for a long time. No anger, no regret, no pain like before. Just an unusual kind of stillness. He quietly closed the laptop. No reply. Because there are questions in life that don't need answers from others. They can only be understood through the price each person must live to pay for their choices, day by day, year by year, until the very end. Betrayal rarely begins with a single major decision. It usually starts with small secrets, things we believe no one will ever discover. And then, one day, everything falls apart. The most painful part is not losing money or status, but realizing that the person you trusted the most was the one quietly razrushing everything you had. In the end, greed may open doors to opportunity, but only honesty can keep a person standing when everything else collapses. If you found this story meaningful, leave a comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video.